Hi, I'd like to thank everyone for coming to listen to my presentation on should you really be worried about your carbon footprint. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mike's Big Burger Shop for hosting us.
Yeah.
So I'm Chadwick Myers, and if I get everyone to introduce yourselves.
Tracy.
Crow. Randy. Bubba.
TJ.
All right, great, let's get started. Your carbon footprint. You hear a lot of environmentalists, a lot of politicians talking about how urgent it is that we have to reduce our carbon footprint. And what they're talking about is the amount of carbon dioxide that's emitted by just through the burning of what they commonly call fossil fuels as carbon-based fuels, such as gasoline, coal, natural gas, and they're addressing a lot of urgency about it, that we need to pass laws reducing how much each person can emit. Although I find it quite strange that politicians like Al Gore, who flies around a private jet, lives in a mansion, is going to lecture the rest of us about it. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is carbon dioxide really a toxin? Because that's how they're treating it as a pollutant. Now if we go back to elementary school science class, remember that plants, there's a tree, you know, plants give off oxygen. Humans, us, and other animals breathe it in the process, we give off carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is a natural part of nature. We do give it off. And in the burning of carbon-based fuels, a very similar process, at least chemically it's a similar process, takes place. They combine oxygen and hydrocarbon fuels, just same thing as when we eat food and breathe in oxygen, similar chemical process that gives off carbon dioxide. So the carbon exchange is a natural part of the process in nature, biochemistry. But then the question would arise, are we giving off too much carbon dioxide? Especially it's been looked at with the advent of industrial revolution back in the 1800s. Are we suddenly putting too much of it in the air? Well, if we trace our use of carbon-based fuels, it really started to take off around the time of World War II and immediately thereafter when the world started to go through a global industrialization. And if we trace that time from World War II until now, we're talking about a six-fold increase, a 600% increase in worldwide use of carbon-based fuels. So you might think that, so we've had a 600% increase in the world's percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But if you look, it's only been a 22% increase in the content of the atmosphere. So it's all going somewhere. And also, carbon dioxide is still a very small part. In that same time period, we've gone from about 280 parts per million to about 380, so it's still way less than 1% of the atmosphere. So it's really a very small increase. So even though we've greatly expanded our use of carbon-based fuels, we're not really adding that much carbon to the atmosphere. And what some researchers have noticed is you want to stimulate plant growth, you put them in a carbon dioxide rich environment. Again, plants use carbon dioxide. And they've noticed that from looking at tree rings from old trees. In the past several decades, the same time period talked about, they've been growing faster. So plants are doing so much better, you know, due to, so it's really nature has a self-balancing process. And what's concerning me is how so many politicians are quick to jump to, we need to pass new laws that greatly impact us. You know, they restrict us economically, our ability to make a living, when especially so much of that new technology allowed us to acquire a good lifestyle, to be able to produce food economically. I mean, we don't have as much problem with famines as we used to because of our modern technologies and modern farm equipment and our ability to transport foods to market. And so I'd really like everyone to think about whenever you hear about proposals for environmental legislation, is it really based in science? Is it more pursuing a political agenda of controlling people? Does anyone have any questions they'd like to open to the floor?
One of the things I noticed is about this carbon agenda is that, I mean, my family's been here over 100 years, working in, like, had the same land here, you know, for this whole time period. Nothing has really changed as far as how we plant trees, how we grow crops, how we do everything, you know, day-to-day structure. But now when this all came to part, come to pass here, it's like now we can't, like, hey, don't use pesticides, don't do this, don't do that, don't, use cars so much, don't use other, machinery, equipment. It's not right no more.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly certain pollutants, heavy metals and stuff that are found in some of your carbon-based fuels, like in coal and stuff. There are some toxic heavy metals, but modern power plants do have systems for filtering that out. And that's what I do for a living. I'm a power plant operator, and we do have equipment in place for drawing that out of the exhaust emissions. But you're right. I mean, as far as now they're putting restrictions on everything you do.
Yes.
And one of the little known secrets, it's not so much a secret if you really look for information, but if you look at the most polluted lands in America, most of them are owned by the federal government. So again, you're relying upon the same entity to regulate you who's the worst offender. Again, back to politicians who fly around private jets, try to tell us regular folks how we need to live. So, anyone else?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Okay, well, again, just like to thank everyone for listening to my presentation, and just a few thoughts for you to keep in mind.
Do you know what I did for the last 10 years? Clean air. I do clean air projects.
Okay, great.
If